My name is Jack, and I'm a passionate angler and all-round fish fanatic. In this series of films, I'm trying to track down and catch 100 different species of fish in the British Isles as I fly, see and course fish for a range of weird species. This week I'm in Hampshire trying to catch pike on the fly, and joining me for this episode is Jeremy Wade, who you might recognise from River Monsters. He's a mate of mine, and before we started fishing, wanted to have a chat about pike. So Jeremy, thanks for coming.
Thank you for the invite. I'm looking forward to this.
No, I'm glad, because I've not pike fished a great deal in my life, and I know you've obviously caught all kinds of incredible predators in your time. Do you do much pike fishing? Is this something?
Not very much. I mean, it was the first predatory fish that I caught, obviously. I mean, you know, that was years ago now. I had a little wooden plug, which I didn't realise at the time. It was a surface popper. I thought, what's wrong with this? I put a bit of lead in front of it, checked it out. It was a little pond by my home river, and caught a 4-pounder. And I mean, that's, you know, when you're, how old was I, 11 or something? You know, it's
seems like a monster, doesn't it?
And so, right, yeah, that's what starts everything off.
I think pike are like that first proper fish for a lot of people, aren't they? When you're just getting a little roach and gudgeon, and then you see that small pike, but it looks like a monster, doesn't it?
It's the way they look as well. It's just, you know, you can tell looking at it. If you have no scale reference, it's obviously a predator. It just makes, you know, it just gives you that little shiver, doesn't it?
They're awesome things, aren't they? How are you fishing for them today? How are we going about it?
Well, I mean, from what I knew about the place, I thought, you know, I was tempted to bring a fly rod, but you wouldn't believe the chaos that my stuff is in, and there's very little, you know, there's very little in the way of what's relevant to UK fishing. So I've got a couple of carp rods. I've got some, you know, I'm basically dead baiting, and having had a quick look, there's quite a bit of weed on the bottom. I think rather than fish on the bottom, I'm just going to have a float, which is always quite nice, and try and suspend just off the bottom. See how that goes anyway. Start off with that.
Fingers crossed. What's your biggest pike out of interest?
Biggest, I actually filmed one in about 2000, before River Monsters. Well, actually before River Monsters, there was something I did called Jungle Hooks.
I was 9 years old then, just to make you feel old. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, I was already past it then, and. So Discovery back then in the UK, it took them a couple of years to sort of decide on that, and they wanted me to do a sort of a show reel just to go out and fish and talk to camera and stuff. And a friend of mine had this lake, and we went there, and we sat through this day that was just ridiculously rainy and windy and horrible, and we got stuff enough for the programme, and we're just wrapping up, and I'd taken my radio mic off. We'd taken 2 of the rods down. One rod, we're just about to bring it in, and the line went. And I went along, picked it up, and the fish is somewhere out in the middle of the lake. And while I'm trying to, you know, if you're fishing, you know, I want to concentrate on. There's a guy right in front of me like this, and his hand is up my shirt and underneath all my waterproof, trying to put the radio mic back on. And to cut a long story short, there was one big fish in the lake, and that was it. It was 28 pounds.
Oh,
so we got it on film. The film exists somewhere.
What a beast.
And that, to my day, is my biggest pike.
The area was quite flooded, but as we mentioned, it's a small trout lake with a few huge pike. I did fire up the drone and could actually see some of the pike from the air. I did try casting at this absolute hog of a fish, but she wasn't really having any of it. Admittedly, if I just wanted to catch a pike, dead baiting would have been an easier way, but I was keen to try and get one on the fly. I'm using fairly large flies and beefed up tackle for this. I did spot a jack pike, which you can see here did have a go at the fly, but I didn't hook it. Jeremy had a bit more common sense than me and was sticking with floatfish deadbaits, so I left him to it as I had a wander around on this rather soggy day. There were a couple of trout anglers on the lake. On Sod's Law, they caught a little jack pike, so they kindly let me go and have a look at it.
So I can't catch pike, but trout anglers can. So I've been kindly donated a pike by the two people trout fishing today, and it is a gorgeous little jack pike, baby. Well, not baby, but goes to show what a pike is today. Absolutely gorgeous. Look at the bars on that. So as they get bigger, they'll lose those bars. Proper predator. At least I've seen a pike anyway. Let's put it back in the net. There you go.
It took some getting used to with the fly rod, but I was just about getting the hang of it. The frustrating thing was there was no shortage of pike in the lake, they just weren't playing ball.
Well, I've given the fly a good go today, and it's a lovely method. It's really relaxing. I always enjoy fly fishing, but I think my skill as a fly angler is showing a little bit. So I think I'll have a little rethink, maybe try some dead baits. I know Jeremy's still sat in front of his floats, the odd knock, but nothing yet. So it's interesting, time's ticking, haven't got that long left, so fingers crossed the pike turn up.
I did have some underwater cameras in the lake, with some huge pike going by, and a couple of them were followed by smaller males. The pike were about to spawn, which means they had other things on their mind from feeding, so this is likely why we struggled to connect with the larger fish. Female pike are always larger than males, with the male pike really getting bigger than 10 pounds, while the females can get over 40. When they're spawning, the males have to be careful, as they are cannibalistic and you could easily turn him into a meal. They like to spawn in thick weeds in the margins and will hatch out a few weeks later.
Well, that's fishing, isn't it? Jeremy's gone on the fly now just to have a quick go before we go. But the pike aren't on the feed, so never mind. Was nice to see one that one of the other trout anglers caught today, but that's fishing. Sometimes the fish bite, sometimes they don't. However, I'm not going to give up on the pike. I'm going to try another venue closer to home just to see if I can winkle one out.
I couldn't have an episode about pike and not catch one, so I headed to a small canal close to my home to have a go for them, as it was a bit later and the fish had stopped spawning. The weather hadn't improved much, but the pike were at least a bit more cooperative, and almost straight away I was into a fish.
Well, this is probably the most grateful I've ever been for catching a jack pike. Let me just get it out. My net's a little bit small, but the pike in it in this stretch aren't too big. Look at that, that is perfection in miniature. That is absolutely gorgeous. The little bars on it, beautiful fish. I'm so happy to get that. I thought I can't do a pike fishing video and not catch a pike. Gorgeous, almost quite silvery, and that's because the water's a little bit mucky. Oh, okay, let's get it back. Well, I'm absolutely chuffed with that. Even though it's probably the smallest pike I've ever caught, it doesn't matter. That's the point of these videos. They're not to learn how to fish, they're not to catch the biggest fish. There's plenty of stuff on YouTube where you can see that if you want. But these videos are to try and enthuse people about fish and to learn about them. And for that purpose, they don't need to be big. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Great to fish with Jeremy, is a good mate of mine. And let me know, are there any other anglers that you'd like me to fish with and team up for a video? Let me know which species to go after in the next vid, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
New episodes of The Species Hunt are out each Sunday at 5 PM. And next episode, I'm fly fishing again, though this time for wild rainbow trout in the Peak District. The species tally's looking pretty good now, with pike added to the list. If you want to check out previous episodes, have a look in the playlist and you can see some of those. I have a range of merch out also, with A3 fish posters, playing cards, and an ID book for sale via my website with a link in the description.
Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this vid, why not check out this other video right here? If you can, please subscribe to the channel, only takes a couple of seconds and it really helps me out. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.